beautiful people. Today I'm meeting Brett Graham, a travel enthusiast of note. Brett has done an impressive 15 Expat Explore tours with us. And we are going to be talking everything coach related. We're going to be talking about the ease of coach travel, the friendships forged on the road, as well as why somebody like Brett comes back to us year after year to travel with us, even though he's such an experienced traveler. Welcome, Brett. It's so good to have you. And I see you are well prepared with all your travel magnets there behind you and your Kruger National Park shirt that you're wearing. So it's really good to have you on this episode of Expat Explore's podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And just so everybody knows, Brett and I actually have met in person on one of his many tours with us, and that was on the Brazil and Argentina tour. I know you did a bit of a longer stint, but yes, I've met Brett, and I can tell you guys that he is a friendship forger of note. Brett, talk to us a little bit about the friendships that you've formed on tour and just the people that you've traveled with.
Well, the friendships are pretty good friendships. You usually end up on a WhatsApp or a Facebook friendship link, but you can meet lots of people, and the people that you meet are not necessarily only other travelers. It's also the people from Expat Explore, like yourself. But when you're on the coach, you're doing your seat rotation. The first people that you learn about are the ones in front of you and behind you, and then across from you. Well, when you do the seat rotation, you'll move up a little bit, and then you'll get some new people across from you, but then you start knowing the people in front of you and behind you better. On some trips, you actually forge a stronger relationship, and I have with several people. One trip in particular, to Azerbaijan and Armenia and Georgia, there were several of us that we have seen each other again. One gentleman, sometimes I want to call him character, is Jay. I remember when he first got on the bus, I was in the back and I heard someone talking. He was like the last one on. And you looked up and everyone was noticing him. He was just very funny. He's an older gentleman. And I've actually traveled with him 2 other times. One time in Croatia sailing where we were both cabin mates. So I got to know him really good on that trip.
Yeah.
Another one, Jasmine and Mafi. I met them on that same trip. Jasmine lives in Trinidad, and so I was doing a separate trip down there, and she said, "Hey, you want me to come by and pick you up and show you around?" I said, "Sure." And Nick, another gentleman, Nick, who I actually met on a trip prior to my introduction to Expat, was with me, and we had already signed up for Madrid in Portugal. And we were all talking, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to Spain and Portugal." "Well, what dates are you going?" And she gave me the dates. I was like, "Oh, that's the trip we're on." So
wow, that's incredible.
There. And Mafi, who was actually down there visiting Jasmine, was planning to go to Portugal while we were on the trip to Madrid and Portugal. So we actually got to meet up with her as well for a dinner in Portugal.
Big
so that was really
friendship reunion, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was. And there's some other people like Samir. He actually lives about 40 miles from me. We don't really communicate here, but when we're on trips and we see each other, we communicate there. So there are many people like that. And as I mentioned, Expat Explore, I still remember my first Expat Explore tour leader. Saw her again, and she's actually provided some advice. And some other people like Jamie, I've seen him several times. I've actually seen him on another expat tour that he wasn't even part of the tour. He was just there teaching someone else how to do the job that he does in the photography and video. So, and then you eventually start planning trips together, which is great.
Okay. Talking about planning trips, I mean, it's quite clear, I think, that you are just somebody who really enjoy the fact that coach travel allows you to meet amazing people, make friends from all across the world, and that it expands to beyond just that tour. You know, you've just mentioned that you meet up in different parts of the world. That's got nothing to do with necessarily the coach travel in the future. You know, you are very well traveled. I find it fascinating, Brett, that somebody like you who really travel all the time, make plans and that sort of thing. Why do you come back to coach travel specifically? Because it's not like, many of our first timers are obviously a little bit unsure of traveling and need their hand to be held, but that's not you. So why do you keep coming back?
Well, I'll start with a little quick story about a person who just joined a trip for Scandinavia from here. I played tennis with her, Gabriella, and I suggested that she try it. And she was all nervous. She called me several times, and I, like you said, held her hand through the process to help her. Well, she eventually got on the trip. She did the trip. She made some great friends. I got off at Stockholm. She continued on. And she's really enjoyed that trip, which was really super. The other reason for coach travel is it's easy. When I do a trip that I plan and organize on my own, I pull out my spreadsheet. I put in the planes, the hotels, the activities, any day trips and such that I'll participate in. So my spreadsheet gets pretty busy. Now, when I do coach travel, I write in the planes, the pre-hotels, and maybe the post-hotels, and then I write start tour. And then the next line is stop tour. And there it is. It's all complete.
So the planning is done for you, is your argument. You have to not think about it. You just show up, right?
It's so simple.
Okay.
I like that aspect.
Okay. And tell me, do you find that certain areas of, let's say, the world is more suitable to coach travel than others? Like, is there areas that you would definitely not consider coach travel, but some that you definitely put it as a high priority to look into?
Well, Europe is definitely a great place for coach travel. The cities are much closer than they are in the U.S., which is where I'm from. The exception in the U.S. might be the Northeast area, where the cities are much closer. Asia, parts of Asia have cities that are reachable by coach, but coach would probably be tough in the Western United States, where the big cities, are so far from other major cities. Australia is probably the same. I recently visited Australia, and the cities are so far away. Flying is the way to go.
Okay. So it very much depends where you go. What option you choose to take. It sounds like.
Yes, but I do default to a coach trip. I'll go online to see if there's anything there, and if there's not, then I have to go other places, other websites to try and find something. But believe it or not, Expat Explore is my first option that I go to.
Of course, I believe that. That's not believe it or not. That makes sense to me. But Brett, 15 tours is a lot of tours, and thank you for the loyalty first and foremost. But do you have a favorite? Like, was there a tour that absolutely stands out for you as that was amazing? I mean, I'm hoping all of them were amazing, but tell us a little bit more about your expat tours. Which ones did you really enjoy?
Well, that's not really a fair question. It's like, which child do you like best?
Okay.
They're all great. I can't say I've ever left with a negative feeling. I enjoy travel, so that works out. But the ones that stand out most is my first one that I took. Stacy was a tour guide for that. It was the UK, all around the UK. So I know everything about the UK now. And the Discovery tours are ones that I really like because you do extra stuff. I met you on the Discovery tour from Rio to Santiago de Chile, That was fun. The falls, we have a great picture of you and I
I
on
remember you
the,
posted that recently on our Facebook page.
I always get the name wrong. Is it Iglesia Falls?
Iguazu Falls. Iguazu, yeah.
So that was great being on the boat watching that. So those are some of my favorite memories. And like I said, there's unexpected things that occur on the Discovery tours that,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't even expect they were going to do. They see something
Mm-hmm.
or something, and then they add it. So that's super. But the one
That's right.
that I always like the best is the next one I have planned. So I always look forward
That's
to
a good
that.
answer. That's a good answer. And you do have another one planned for later this year.
Yes, Japan will be hopefully a super trip.
It will be. I know it will be. Are you traveling solo or are you taking some of your previously met friends on expat tours with you?
Well, Jasmine actually is signed up for that same tour. So we're
Okay.
going to meet up, on the tour there. And I already know somebody. And plus, Jamie thinks that he's a tour leader on that one. So I've already
Okay.
been pinging his brain on
Okay.
certain things. So that's been helpful.
Awesome. Okay, that's very exciting. As a veteran in coach travel, Brett, what is there any kind of tips that you want to? So let's say there's somebody who's never traveled with us or on a coach, let's say. What tips do you have for those people? Because it is a little bit different than doing this on your own in a car.
Well, it is. And a car is tough. With the coach, the tour leader gives you a itinerary for the day or the next day, tells you when to bring your luggage down, what time the breakfast hours are, what time the coach is leaving, and what activities we're going to stop at and get off and do, and then what time they expect to get to the next hotel. And voila, I mean, that's the ease of travel. But some of the things that you need to do is you need to relax and be patient. I kind of put it as a tour leader is like a parent with a lot of kids, maybe the Brady Bunch or something. And they have a lot of responsibilities. And every once in a while, you have a person or two who, I won't say they're not as open to coach travel, but they aren't as easy to work with as others, maybe.
Maybe
So
a little
just,
bit stuck in their ways or their thinking. Is that more or less what you mean?
it is. Well, we got to get up too early. Well, if you have to catch the coach at 7 or 8, it's because where we're going might be 3 or 4 hours away. So you want to get up early and be on time so you can beat the crowds at that place. So those are the little things. And sometimes you might be later arriving than you planned, the traffic or such. The UK trip, we had to cross in a ferry, and the ferry, because of weather, was canceled. So we had to wait a couple of hours for the next ferry. We didn't get into the hotel until midnight or something like that. But those are the type of things you have to relax and be patient, and everything will work. Everything works out all fine. I've never had a situation that all the pieces didn't come in the perfect fit by the end of the tour. Everything worked out.
Okay. Brett, if I'm not mistaken, and now I'm thinking just about the tour that I was with you on in Brazil. You opted to room share with somebody who you'd never met before, and I assume that's still your preference. Talk us through that, because some people I do think are kind of like humming and hawing about whether or not to go single room or sharing. What are your thoughts there?
Well, my early days of traveling by coach, I was doing the room share. And after a while, I said, you know what? Just for a little bit more, I can have my own room. So I switched between the two, but either way works. If you room share, you tend to develop a tighter relationship with the person that you're rooming with.
Yeah.
And when you're doing the single supplement, then you reach out more to other people. You go down to breakfast usually by yourself rather than your roommate going down there at the same time. So either way works. I guess I just got a little, I don't know. I also enjoy my own room, but either
No,
way
of
is
course.
fine.
Of course, and I mean, so do I, so sometimes it is a little bit more comfortable just to have your own space and that sort of thing, but it can also be very beneficial, if you're somebody who tends to maybe don't hear your alarm in the mornings, because we do have some early mornings, and as you said, making that friendship, having that little conversation. I always say this, that Expat Explore tours for me is like the United Nations of travel. We have people from all over the world coming together. It's
Definitely.
not just a specific group of people. So what I like about it is that you learn so much about the culture of the tour that you're going on, but you also learn so much about the culture of the person that you may be sharing a seat next to or a room with or whatever. It's more than just experiencing that tour. It's also about experiencing other people, but it does have its challenges. We often hear about people saying, "My roommate snores, I can't sleep," and that sort of thing. So it is a case of weighing up your options, I'm sure. But I was curious just on your thoughts, but I think you've answered that. It's okay either way. It has its benefits.
Yes, when I had a snore, I used earbuds, so it
Exactly.
worked out. And I usually
Yeah.
do 2 different timers to make sure that I'm up in sufficient time. Like I said, you don't want to be that one that everybody
Oof,
else is
no.
waiting on.
No, and it makes a difference if you have a group that, stick to the times, everybody kind of is on time. It makes it a little bit more pleasant for everybody if you
It
have
does.
good timekeeping and that sort of thing. Yeah. So Brett, I'm seeing you wearing your Kruger National Park shirt. I know you've been to South Africa. Talk us through that experience. I mean, I'm seeing your shirt and I'm assuming that this was a pleasant experience and that's why you decided to wear this today.
Yeah, and then Kruger, is pretty popular, so I wanted to spread the word. But
Okay.
that was a great trip. Actually, I believe Jasmine was on that trip as well.
I met you there for afternoon while you were on the way to the Kruger. Do you remember
Right,
that?
right.
Yes.
And it was a great trip. We did a lot of stuff, saw a lot of animals. I have some great videos of some lionesses trying to get some prey but failed. So, and the one that I took was broken up in 2 parts. And forgive me if I don't say it correct. I think one was called their garden route, and
Garden
then
route, yeah.
the other one, I don't know what that one was called, but that included the Kruger portion where
That's
we went
right.
over and saw the animals in the park. So that was a very great trip. Something I've long sought to do. Actually, that was a COVID cancel trip as well. So
You have a few of those, unfortunately,
yeah.
right? I remember your Spain trip was cancelled. You and I spoke on the phone just at that point. You mentioned now that your Japan plans were cancelled due to COVID. So it seems to me like you're very much a revenge traveler. You want to make up for the lost time. It feels to me like that. I mean, I don't know. You more, I think, on a trip than you are at home. Is that more or less true?
Well, believe it or not, before COVID, I was somewhere every month.
Okay.
But then
Wow.
post-COVID, I've broken it out where maybe 2 months in between trips. So I've slowed it down a little bit. I'm getting a little older.
Don't say it. Don't say it, Brett. You just said it.
but I'm getting more experiences. So that's part of
it.
life.
Okay, that's true. Yeah. Brett, I want to ask you about your travel moments. This when you travel, it's sometimes you have this awe-inspiring moments on tour. Have you had any of those types of moments?
Well, my awe-inspiring moments probably don't match other people's.
Okay.
when I'm at home, I play a game called Civ 5. And in that game, you build world wonders like the pyramids, the Alhambra, Hagia Sophia, the Great Wall, and things like that. And it's really great when I actually get to see the pyramids, got to see Stonehenge, got to see on the Turkey tour the Hagia Sophia, and Spain the Alhambra. So that's my awe-inspiring moments, are things that I learned about in other means, and I see them, and I'm like, oh, great. But the vistas that I have seen all over the place, there's just so many, I can't remember them all, and I guess that's the purpose of the camera. So do that.
Absolutely, yeah. What makes you decide on your next destination? Like what inspires you to go somewhere?
Well, as you can see from the magnets behind me, if I don't have that magnet, that inspires me. I took that Scandinavia trip earlier this year because I haven't been to Norway. Well, so I repeated going back to Denmark and Sweden, but now I have Norway. But it was great because I had not been to Stockholm, Sweden before. So that inspires me to choose a trip over another.
Okay, so for you, it's very much about ticking those bucket list items off as you go. But next question, Brett, would you ever consider doing the exact same trip again?
Since there are so many more places I have not been, I'd like to check off the ones I have not been first. But
of course,
places like Spain and Portugal, that was so beautiful. It's definitely something that after I've gotten all the ones that I haven't gotten, would be one that I'd reconsider visiting again. So, it's just because I've been to the place and I'd like to go to places I haven't been yet.
Yeah.
So those are my.
When I saw you on our Brazil Argentina trip, I remember you and a fellow traveler deciding to go off on your own to tick off another country which our tour didn't go to. And I'm curious to ask you if that's something that you're actively chasing, is to tick off as many countries as you possibly can. And if yes, have you counted the ones that you've been to?
Yes, I have a couple apps to keep track of those. But that trip we added on the Uruguay, that we just took a ferry across and spent a few hours over there and then came back. That was great. Also did the same thing, the Spain and Portugal trip. Took a day trip down to Gibraltar. And that was really neat to go to. I actually suggested that get added to the itinerary because I thought that was a great experience. And I believe Uruguay might have been added as an optional or something on the expat trip. I think I saw that briefly.
It's possible. I'm not gonna lie and say I know that for a fact. But Brett, just in terms of how many countries do you still have left to tick off?
Let me count. Well,
Wow.
I've been to 115 countries. Now, I always qualify that because I've been to French Guinea, and that's France. They actually use the euro, but I still count it. So in Gibraltar, that's part of Britain, but I still count it. So with that, I have 115.
Sure. Okay. That's amazing. It's amazing. And I just want to show the audience, that exactly that. You are well traveled, but you still feel like Coach Travel has a massive space in your life and a way to get out there and meet people and cultures and things. So that's exactly why I wanted to talk to you today. And just because you've now mentioned your magnets, is that kind of your go-to souvenir that you collect, or is there something else?
No, that's pretty much it. In the early days, I would get T-shirts and something for this person or something for that person. I learned early that my bag can't hold all this other stuff, but a magnet, the
Yes,
bag can
yeah.
hold the magnets easily. And I just settled on that and continue with that. So everywhere I go,
Okay.
I seek a magnet.
Have you ever forgotten to buy a magnet?
Oh, geez, no,
Okay.
never. I actually have two for places that I could not go, but I got to go right up to the border. Well, one in that situation. The other one, I actually had a connection in Japan, and I got a Japan one just because I got that connection. But both of those are sitting to the side and over where they're not touching any of the real magnets.
They're not allowed to touch until you've
They're
been there,
not
though.
allowed to touch.
Okay. Okay, that's quite interesting. Brett, this is so insightful to listen to you, and just you are really so well traveled. I'm sure you're one of those people who, if I want to ask you, I want to go to India. Can you give me some tips? You probably have a tip or five for me. But just in terms of tips, you've touched on it. You've touched on tips for coach travel, but just travel tips in general. Is there anything that you feel like you should mention that's quite important, packing wise or weather wise, or I don't know. Is there anything before we wrap it up that you feel kind of inclined to? It's important that people know this.
Well, prior to going there, I'm waiting for the Discovery Tour for India. So
Mm-hmm.
let
So
me
am
know
I,
when
to
that
be
one's
honest.
that one's done. But
Okay.
you really don't have to do a lot. I pack the same way for coach travel that I would for any other packing that I do. Um, just be prepared to relax and enjoy. I was thinking of the phrase from Costa Rica, pura vida, which is
Okay.
pretty much pure life. It's kind of that's the literal meaning, but it's kind of an essence that you can just, life would just be really nice and worth living if you just relax, just let someone else tell you what to do for the coach
Yeah.
travel, and just relax, pura vida.
Brett, I'm not going to let you get away without answering this question because I do wonder if you potentially have a bit of a superpower to meet, to really make valuable friendships. It's not just, you mentioned that you have Facebook friends and we all do, but you have real connections that you've made as a result of your travels. What is the secret? Or is there a secret?
I guess you have to be a little extroverted, willing, like Jay, when he got on the bus, he pretty much made friends with the whole bus just from his getting on the bus and just greeting everybody while he's trying to
Mm-hmm.
find a seat. But you have to be willing to ask questions, tell them about yourself, find out things about them and where they live. It's really great. Like when I was in Kuala Lumpur, a person I met on an expat tour in Turkey, her and her aunt, Angeline and her aunt, I actually got to visit with them, and Angeline took me down and showed me her hometown, and then I was going down to Singapore after that, so she dropped me off at the hotel and went back home. But it's great. You get to see him again, and
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to make friends. So you're probably not going to be best friends forever and doing
Yeah.
things because you only see them once in a while, but you can
Mm-hmm.
communicate with them with WhatsApp, Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So you just
Yeah.
have to be willing to accept people for who they are
Mm-hmm.
and continue
And
life.
get out of your comfort zone a little bit because it is sometimes a little bit daunting to meet new people and especially if you're traveling solo, but it's it's just a case of get a little bit out of your comfort zone because it's always so worth it, I find. And luckily, something like coach travel helps with that. You're kind of forced into a situation where you're sitting close to people, eating with them, sitting on the coach. So it makes it a little bit easier. I find that, people my friends always find it so weird when I tell them I honestly, truly believe I'm an introvert because I struggle with that, But Coach Travel has made it so easy, because it's a shared passion for travel. I think it's just the starting point for a conversation, in my opinion.
It is. When I met you, you were sitting in front of me on the coach.
I have very good memories of that too. I have to tell you, that day we got so drenched at the falls. It's just such a highlight for me.
Yes.
Yeah. Brett, we have to wrap this up. I just wanted to thank you just for spending your time with us and sharing your insights and thoughts. And also just enjoy your Japan tour. And once you've done the trip, please share your photos onto our Facebook community. I know you are also active on the community. And for those of you who have, I'm speaking on his behalf now, but for those of you who have questions, maybe Brett can answer them on our Facebook community group. He's very well traveled. He's done some trips that we've since discontinued. That's how well traveled the guy is. So please reach out to us on our community page. I'm sure Brett won't mind answering some of your questions. And if you're unsure of whether or not to go, the answer is just go. So thanks, Brett, and thanks everybody for watching, and we will see each other again soon. Bye.
Thank you.